Good evening, everybody. Tuesday night, 7 o'clock p.m. Welcome to Draft for Upside. Crack me a little beer here. Chris got the whiskey. I like it. All right, you may notice we're on a new time. We're on a new day. We're on a new network. We are broadcasting in affiliation with Notoriety Sports Network. Of course, we are Draft for Upside. You catch all of our stuff on Facebook and all of our premium content at fantasyfootballblueprint.com, which I believe we will have for you on Sunday morning, a promo code to get the rest of the season's full paid product and 2021's draft cheat sheet. I believe we got that going out this weekend, right, Chris? I think so.
For the promo code? Yeah.
Yeah. It might actually be live now. I think it's D4U, but we'll be sure on the Sunday morning show.
I believe it was NLN. Just put one of those to it.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out for you on Sunday, but we got the rest of the season ready for you. We got a promo code for you to use to purchase the ever so handy fantasy football blueprint draft cheat sheet that will help you win all those seasonal leagues. And then, of course, the rest of the year's DFS content will be included in that, which is awesome. So we've got another new partner for our broadcasting, some great folks over at Notoriety Sports Network. They got closing in on about 7,000 subscribers to their Facebook page, and they are going to help us broadcast the good news. We are going to be happy to share their shows and what's going on with them. And I have the founder, owner, operator, whatever he wants to call himself, Dylan Beeks here. Let me pop him up. Boom. Dylan, you're on the show. How are you, my friend?
Yes, sir. I'm doing good.
I like it. So tell us a little bit about Notoriety Sports. A mutual friend, Mr. Lou Landers, talked to us about you guys. And I know that you guys were heavy in the Philadelphia sports scene, maybe 3-4 years ago?
Yeah.
Kind of took a hiatus, and now you're back.
Well, actually, man, we, I started out when I was about 20 years old, man. All I wanted to do was be a journalist, do stuff like that, just write articles. And a few weeks later, man, ended up writing for a place called Indiana Sports Coverage. Bounced around, took every opportunity that I could, ended up covering, Notre Dame, Purdue, interviewed some of the biggest names, Drew Brees, Lamar Jackson, all that, and I loved everything I was doing, but it was within the sports industry, man, it was a big thing about it's a big thing about politics. And so I wanted to rebuild more of a thing to where we could be a family. Basically, y'all, when I agreed to bring y'all on, it was more of building a family type of thing. And that's behind the name Notoriety. It came from a saying, man, fame is when people know you. Notoriety is when people know your work. And I want to build a family atmosphere over here that gives you everything you could want for sports, but to broadcast our work, man, top-notch work. We have a full platform of shows, anything you could want. We've got Philadelphia Eagles shows. We've got Carolina Panthers shows. We have you guys that are a little bit of everything. Just everything, man. I mean, there's nothing you cannot like about what our vision is, what we plan on doing. And I just hope that we all build together and people see what we can bring to the table, man.
I love it. So I noticed on your Facebook profile that you're up in Upland, Indiana, and one of my favorite brewing companies over there, Upland Brewing Company. Good stuff.
I don't feel like that's the same place.
It's not, isn't it?
I've never heard
of it. Indiana?
It's Upland, Indiana, but it's I've never heard of actually Upland.
I think Upland might be in St. Louis.
Okay.
No, it's in Bloomington, Indiana.
Okay, so yeah, it's Indiana. But
I know Upland Brewing Company is one of my favorite beers. So shout out to them.
Upland, basically, it's the only thing it's really known for, man. It's a real small Christian college town around Taylor University is the college here. It's a Christian college. That's actually where my wife works at. And
nice.
Yeah, that's about the only thing you're gonna find over here, over here in Upland. But
dig it. So, what's your team, man? Are you a Philly guy?
Oh yeah, I'm a big Eagles fan.
All right. Well, tell me about Jalen Hurts now. That's been a big topic of discussion, of course, with Wentz playing like complete poo-poo for the year for the most part. We got Jalen Hurts coming in. I don't watch a ton of college ball anymore, so I didn't watch a whole lot of him in college. Tell us about him and what he's going to do for the Eagles.
Man, it's really a touchy subject. I've been, I've been calling for Wentz to be benched for a few weeks now. And basically when I say I've been calling for him to be benched, as I've explained many of times, it's more about accountability. The Eagles really struggle from not only the lack of accountability, but also their loyalty. And it's so dysfunctional, man. It's like a family that can never do no wrong. And I've been asking for Wentz to be benched, basically, because, just to hold him accountable. Seeing Hurts, I like the kid. I don't know how well he's going to be, and I say that because Wentz has been bad regardless of anything, but he's the injuries to the offensive line. His best wide receivers are from practice squads. His slot receiver that's been there, the only one who's consistently been there is Greg Ward. He was a quarterback in college. Jalen Reagor has dealt with injuries. Travis Fulgham, got cut by a team and was on a practice squad. So he is fighting against all the odds, especially with Doug Peterson, which is arguably, in my mind, the worst coach in the NFL right now. I
don't know. Adam Gase is going to keep him running for his money.
I know Adam Gase. I expect that response. But if you've seen it, man, Miles Sanders, just for instance, Miles Sanders is averaging the second most yard per carries in the entire league. And he had, 5 carries in the first half last game. It's the team is so – the play calling, everything is just so dysfunctional that although I don't, Wentz deserves all the disrespect he can get because regardless of anything around him, he's been bad. But I don't want to label Hurts as – I just feel like Hurts is coming in at a bad time. I do like the potential. He can get on the run, which helps with our 3, all 3 potentially Hall of Fame offensive linemen out. Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson. So it's going to help with him being mobile, but he's set up for a disaster, man. I really don't expect much from him whatsoever.
All right, Chris. Who else is in the running for worst coach in the NFL in your mind, my man?
Well, there's Adam Gase. Adam Gase is kind of the obvious call. I would say Anthony Lynn is right up there. Let's take a look at who's coming up. Adam Gase, Anthony Lynn. The name escapes me from the guy in Cincinnati. The book's still out there, but I think both of those guys, and probably Matt Nagy, are all worse than Peterson.
Are we giving Mike McCarthy a pass?
Look, he's right there. He's right there.
It's his first year, so I would accept ignoring that, but things are bad over there as well.
Yeah, from a Philly standpoint, from an outsider standpoint, yes, Wentz has played bad, but you guys have just been riddled with injuries all across. Like, it's hard to kind of get a gauge. It's one of those things that if you were ever going to be in a division when everybody on your team was going to be hurt and still be able to be, competitive, this was the year to do it. But what's that going to get you? I don't think Hurts is the answer. The farthest thing from a Wentz fan, I have, been on these airways saying that he's a bad player for a long time, but there's some hyperbole there. He's not terrible. I think that he was vastly overrated based on a stretch of games where he was incredibly lucky. And, that's not who he was, but I don't think this is who he is either. And
got a hell of a salary deal out of that stretch.
Absolutely. But those are the things that have to happen for teams to win Super Bowls. Like, perfect things need to happen. Look at the 49ers. They didn't even win the Super Bowl and they've fallen apart. So, it sucks to be a 49ers fan. I'm not one, but I know a few.
You son of a bitch, you.
You
I'm a huge Niners fan. That's that he's digging at me there, Dylan.
That's the thing, though, too, with 49ers, though, man. You've seen how much they're still not as much of a joke as the Philadelphia Eagles. So when I see the Eagles fan base making so many excuses for Wentz, I'm just like, where's the same excuses for what San Fran is? Able to look more of a more like an NFL team than the Eagles. You know, where's the excuses for the Raiders? Who does Derek Carr have to throw to? Ruggs has been horrible. Nelson Aguilar. I mean, we hammered Aguilar and made every excuse in the world for Wentz when he had Aguilar. But I mean, Aguilar's doing great over there with Carr. Carr has what? Darren Waller. Wentz has Goddard and Ertz. I mean, I just don't. I'm not big on the excuses for Wentz, man. I don't think he's got it no more.
So who's better, Jalen Hurts or Tua?
Tua.
Yeah, that's really early to be able to. I mean, he's facing the Saints next game. Hurts is going against the Saints.
Okay, you got all three of those guys. Would you take Fitzmagic over both of those guys?
It depends if you're ready to compete.
Yeah, I'm just shocked Miami just turned their backs from Fitz this week.
You know what's funny is that when you asked that Tua Hurts question, it reminded me. Evan Silva did this quite a few times on Twitter and compared like Josh Allen and a couple other quarterbacks, young quarterbacks. And you would put the Twitter poll out, and he would do it after one of them had a good game, and then you could just compare the poll from like 2 weeks ago and how it just monumentally shifted towards the recency bias of the player that had the good week. So yeah, it's too early to tell, but I mean, look, at the end of the day, you can say Aguilar's playing well in Oakland, but Fulgham got cut from practice squads in Detroit. I mean, and they just cut Marvin Hall. Like they don't have wide receivers.
Yeah.
You get people find their situations. Ertz, he's been hurt. He also turned 100 overnight. Alshon Jeffrey.
I'm glad you mentioned Fulgham, and a reason being is because that also, I hate even admitting this because it gives the Wentz stands more power for their argument. But that's another thing. Alshon Jeffrey is out snapping Travis Fulgham. Why?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just everything is so dysfunctional that it's a mess. There was a report out earlier this year that Doug Peterson wouldn't be unhappy if he was fired. If you watch Eagles games from beginning to end, I don't know if you have to be an Eagles fan to watch it from my point of view, but watch it from beginning to end. I truly am starting to buy that Doug Peterson would be happy if he was gone, man. I mean, it's insane the stuff you're seeing. Not only, running from Miles Sanders, 5 carries to Miles Sanders. Why? Alshon out snapping Travis Fulgham. The ridiculous times he goes for 2 and the list goes on, man. That just Doug is a disaster.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Now, Ryan here, comment on Facebook says it's Hurts time. But my real question, and what the viewers really want to know, is which donut shop in Philly is the first one to put out the Hurts donut? Get it? Would you like a Hurts donut?
Yeah.
Never mind me. It was terrible. It was a terrible joke.
I was like, is he expecting me to know some donut shops in Philly? Or,
I don't know. It was a terrible joke. Terrible joke. All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and telling us about notoriety and talking Philly with us, Dylan. And I'm going to put you on the spot. We got a game tonight, Baltimore and Dallas. Baltimore -6.5. What are you thinking?
Lamar was cleared, right?
I believe Lamar was cleared. Yes, sir.
100%.
100%. Baltimore
-9.
Did it?
Oh,
when I was writing the article earlier, it was -6.5, but I think it's popped. No, I'm sorry, 7.5.
It's what now?
When I was writing my article earlier today, it was -7.5. But did it go up after the announcement? Probably, right?
Yeah. It's at 9 now.
Hang on, I'm looking. I thought it was 9. I don't think it's ever been at 7 unless you were looking at the opening line.
I like 6.5. 9's.
It's definitely at 9. Baltimore is a -420 favorite.
They got Andy back too, right?
Yep.
They don't know. They don't have Mark Andrews back. They do have Dobbins and Ingram back.
And Lamar. And then Dallas has Andy back, right?
But they lost an offensive lineman.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying Andy gives them more of that. I like Andy. I actually think that his whole career, man, he's just struggled with the right pieces. But the betting side of me would probably go with the Dallas side, but I don't know about Baltimore at 9. That's I like Dallas to cover actually.
I laid a nice 100 on 56.5 over Lamar Jackson rushing yards.
Ooh.
6.5 over the rushing yards.
56.5 rushing yards?
Rushing yards, yeah.
Oh, I like that. Dallas's entire defense is terrible, and I mean, I don't want to start a new feud here on the show, but Lamar ain't the best passer, so
no, not at all. Not at all. I don't know. If I did a quick prize picks, we do this thing. You can join us if you like. Let me pop that banner up here. So if you get tired of DraftKings, if you get tired of FanDuel, and you just want to play against projections, you got to check out this webpage called prizepicks.com. Sign up a new account, use promo code Blueprint, get 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's a real bonus. That's a real $100 you can play with right away, not a trickle down economics here with these guys. So it's pretty entertaining. So I wrote a little thing, gave my recommendations, and I always like to say that Lone Star on their helmet, Dylan, it's not a logo, man. It's a rating.
Yes, sir. Always. You're talking to a Philly fan, man.
You know it.
I'm as bad as we're doing. I'm happy to see that Washington is the team that's succeeding. I actually really like Washington.
I like it.
Yeah. If you lived here, you'd be disgusted.
By Chris lives in Washington, by the way. So.
Who are you a fan of?
Whoever's going to make me money that week, but I'm from Detroit, so I guess that's where my allegiances lie.
Okay.
Nice. All right, so this prize picks game, I don't know if you've ever played it, Dylan, but you pick 2, 3, 4 players in a parlay, and you take their projected median score, basically, that looks like about DraftKings or PPR rating points, and you just pick whether they're going to go over or under. You get all 3 right, you win a prize. I mean,
as their projected fantasy points?
Yep. So what we do here is we go down and look at a few of the options, and we choose over or under. That's simply what we do. Okay. So we're going to look at Andy Dalton at quarterback. Over or under 14.4 fantasy points. It's 4 points per touchdown passing, 6 points rushing, 1 point per 25 yards. So standard PPR, Yahoo, ESPN scoring. 14.4.
That's close.
Wait, who? Wait, I'm sorry.
Andy Dalton, 14.4.
I'm going under.
I
knew it was Dalton or Jackson, so I had different answers depending on which one.
I like under, but man, Andy's time should be coming. I'd go over. I like this game for some reason.
Nice.
I
rated this one as a stay away. I think that number's too close, so I'm not going to take either. But if you had to force me to pick, I'd say under.
Yeah, you didn't give me that option.
Lamar Jackson, 22.
I'm going to go under.
I like over.
I like over because I think he can get that rushing touchdown.
Yeah, and just against Dallas, man, they're so dysfunctional. I like the over.
I mean, I just tell you, my median projection's 19, so that's why. I mean, it's a 3-point divergence, so.
I get that. All right, J.K. Dobbins, the guy I think is going to show that he could be the leader of this backfield. 13.
Under.
I'm going over, even though my median projection is 2 points. If I think, and look, I don't mind you guys going the other way because I think it's smart. I think if you think Lamar Jackson's going to exceed 22 points, that's going to come at the cost of a J.K. Dobbins touchdown, and I think it's the other way. So that's why I'm gonna go with the over.
All right, I like the over because I think he's going to take most of the carries.
The Baltimore backfield just reminds me so much of San Fran's backfield that I'm always scared of it whatsoever. So I'd always go under with either or.
That's fair. Ezekiel Elliott, 13. I went under because news they lost another offensive lineman. Baltimore's healthy on their front line now. I'm scared of that, man. I could see Zeke getting 40 all-purpose yards and just being a non-factor tonight.
I'm taking an under on anything that you give me from the Cowboys offense.
I'm going over. Zeke is still Zeke. He's due. He's due big, and
That's funny. You can see my my hand notes here. Maybe the blue lines are don't take the bet. The red lines are under, and it's blue and red for all of Dallas. So I'm with you there, Chris.
Except for Michael Gallup. We perennially go over on Michael Gallup.
Michael Gallup's not even on the list. That's the problem.
It's a free square. They don't want to give that up.
If Dallas hangs into this game, I just feel like it will literally be because Zeke has returned. He's returned to his old self. He's due for it.
That's right. All right. Well, I don't think they win, so I say they're not due this week. Marquise Brown, Hollywood, 12 points.
I'm gonna go under.
Under, basically, because I'm scared.
I like the over. Baltimore's going to come out and score, so I like all these guys. How about CeeDee Lamb? Same points, 12 points for CeeDee Lamb.
I'll go over on CeeDee Lamb. I mean, it's close enough that. So the problem is like my Marquise Brown. We're not calling him Hollywood anymore, right? I just don't think that the median projection kind of properly has been calibrated for this year in his situation. But CeeDee Lamb, I like CeeDee Lamb in the over. Since you can't have Michael Gallup in the over.
Yeah, no Michael Gallup on this list tonight.
Yeah.
13.6 points for Amari Cooper. 13.6. I think that's an under. Because I think he's got a score to get that.
I'll say over.
I'm going under.
I like him. All right. Friend of the podcast here, Devin Duvernay. 6.2.
They go under.
I always like Duvernay. He's a guy that I like. I'm always on it. I'm like, this is going to be the game that he turns into his Percy Harvin and he goes off. And you're giving me 6 points. I'll go over. I'll do it every game, every week.
Hey, Dylan, my man, I'm with you because I wrote it up on the Facebook post that he was making the play to be the number 2 behind Hollywood tonight.
Yep.
So I like the over.
Fun fact.
Fun fact.
Willie Snead. Do you know where he went to college at?
Nope.
Okay, well, just an idea of where I'm from. He went to college about 20 minutes south of me at Ball State in Muncie, Indiana. So just a fun fact there.
I dig it. How about Dalton Schultz at 8.5, the big tight end?
I like the over.
Could be the recipient of the dump-off passes tonight.
Yep, exactly.
I'll go over. That's fine.
I'm not touching that one. How about Justin Tucker, 9.5 for the kicker? That's a high over-under for a kicker, but it's also the best kicker in the league.
I'll go under.
Under.
I'm going to go over. I'm taking the entire Baltimore team over. They're going to score like 65 points. It's fine. Anyways, well, thanks for playing along, man. So that's how you play Prize Picks. If you go over there and check it out, you can do two-player parlays, 3-player parlays, 4-player parlays. The more you parlay, of course, the bigger your prize is when you are done. So go to prizepicks.com, use promo code Blueprint to get 100% of your first deposit up to $100. Hoo-ha. I dig it. Well, thanks for your time, Dylan. I really appreciate it, man. I look forward to being on your network, and thanks for the ad, and we'll have some fun.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate y'all having me on.
All right. Cheers, brother.
All right. See you.
Accidentally got rid of you too, Chris. I'm going to go solo.
I'm back.
Yeah. Woo-ha. All right, I got some comments in here. Oh, Ryan Reese, also a member of the he was tagging along here. He says Dallas covers, and he was following along here. Over on Lamar, under on Zeke, over on Brown, under on Lamb, under on Cooper. Awesome. Sweet. I was too busy to see that. I'm sorry, Ryan. My apologies. All right. Well, let's get into a little showdown talk about tonight. You want to get into a little showdown talk or not really?
Not especially, but I mean, we can get into it. I mean, we've got 2 hours to fill. This is a blast from the past. We haven't been live for 2 hours with a set time schedule, and probably about a year. Actually, it was right around this time when we went on hiatus from that other place. Yeah, that other place that shall not be named. That's correct. Indeed. All right, well, let's break it down, man. Let me go into my my nifty-difty DraftKings app, and we're going to go take a peek boop-a-doop-a-doo, at the Showdown Captain mode. Got to find me an appropriate game to fit my budget.
Found it? All right, good. All right, so we're digging into the captain spot here. In this kind of game, I mean, if you think it's going to be an overwhelming game, like I think it's going to be Baltimore over Dallas, I mean, what's your actual theory here, Chris? Is this like a 4 Baltimore, 2 Dallas guys, or do you play it the other way where you try to pinpoint the 2 guys are going to score the most on Baltimore and then throw it back to the people who might be recipients of garbage time for Dallas?
Well, I mean, when it comes to the captain, the way that I'm always going to do it is just kind of who do I think is, you try and take a look at the 2 or 3 guys that I think on each team that have the best chance of being the highest scoring guy, and then how can I construct lineups around those guys? And then what kind of ownership are those guys going to have? How does it feel making those lineups? Because when you have a guy, let's say like Lamar Jackson, who's going to command almost universal ownership, almost the way to get different with him is to put him in the captain slot. Now, can we put him in the captain slot and still put together a decent lineup? For whatever reason, DraftKings pricing on these Cowboys wide receivers, despite their market share being pretty much the same, have very different price points for Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper. Now, granted, Amari Cooper has been the more consistent of the 3. CeeDee Lamb seems to be in the end zone all the time, but he's not. It seems that way. He's not actually in the end zone all the time. He's only scored like 4 touchdowns, so he's not there all the time. But then you have Michael Gallup, and you can fit Michael Gallup in there pretty inexpensive. And then if you think Michael Gallup can have a big game, or the possibility of him having a big game, and he being actually the lowest owned probably starter between the 2 teams.
I'm looking at 18% ownership and 2% captain ownership.
Yeah, I don't think you need to put him in a captain spot unless you think that he's going to get 15 for 150 and 3 touchdowns. Possible. It's Michael Gallup. It certainly could happen. One of the so that's kind of the thought process. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're going to play. It's just these are the processes I have when building in my lineup. So usually I'll put all my lineups out, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 15, 20, 50, whatever the case is, and I'll allocate captain slots to each one of those and then start building the lineups one by one with my captains and just kind of get a feel for it. One of the nice things, and we mentioned it, and we would be remiss if we didn't, but that Devin Duvernay playing with a little bit of run back for the Baltimore defense. Oh, yeah. Get that return touchdown.
Now, just a minor note. We were just talking about Prize Picks. I do not believe you get special team points on Prize Picks. So let's be clear on that. So.
Well, I mean, I think you might get a touchdown. You're not going to get yardage, but you should get touchdowns. You should.
I don't think the special team points count, but I'll have to look into that.
So those are a couple things to kind of get different there. I think another spot, I did run a couple Cowboy stacks with a little Andy Dalton, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup, and then run it back with Lamar Jackson, and I don't remember who else. I can't give you the whole lineup. So those are a couple thoughts, though. I mean, it's one of those situations where I don't think that this Cowboys team is very good. Baltimore, for all of its seemingly offensive struggles, has been more of a contextual. We're comparing them to last year, and we're disappointed as a result. They've, by all accounts, been actually pretty decent in some of these categories. They've lost more games, they've had more close games, but those have been ultimately mostly against better teams. This Dallas team is not that.
Now, of course, the models that I read through and look at, and what I'm seeing there is they like to run the hundreds and hundreds of simulations and look through, and they're spitting out that the 3-on-3 team allocation tonight will be the most profitable, and the 4-2 in favor of the winning team split is what they're looking at most. And most often than not, the top leverage play is the RB2 from that team. So if you look at the Baltimore Ravens, it's kind of hard to pinpoint who the real RB2 there is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, let's just run this down real quick here. So Baltimore's defense has given up more than 20 points to quarterbacks only 2 times this year. I'm sorry, 3 times. It was to Patrick Mahomes, actually to Carson Wentz, and then also to Ryan Tannehill. We'd have to kind of look at that Carson Wentz game, because here's the thing: when it comes to running backs, it's only a handful of games, and recently not very many, where they've given up a lot to rushers, usually around that 18, 15, 20. They gave up 40 to New England, which is kind of weird. But wide receivers, they've given up 40 or less every single game. 40 seems like a lot, but when you spread it amongst three, it's quite a bit. And that 40 points that the New England running back scored came at the cost of only 15 points for the wide receivers. The only team that was able to really take advantage of, their secondary was going to be Kansas City and Pittsburgh last week. Now, I don't know about Marcus Peters' health. I don't really care that much, but obviously if he's in there, he's a little bit better. On the flip side of everything, this Dallas defense has given up just tons of points to quarterbacks, except for their last game out. They gave up only 9 points to Alex Smith because Antonio Gibson scored all of them. But they have, 4 games over 35 points to running backs, 1 game over 50, which was their most recent. And then any game that they didn't just give up a ton to running backs, they gave up, 54, 63, 53, 66, 55, 35, just tons to wide receivers. So the only teams whose wide receivers couldn't score more than 30 points was Washington, and we know that they only have one wide receiver, Terry McLaurin, and over those 50
story.
So yeah, I think Baltimore 4-2 or 5-1 is probably the better way to go.
So if you're going to play 2 of their running backs, which looks like through the simulations that I'm running is the most competent, or not competent, the most leveraged spot to play. If you're going to play 2 of those Baltimore guys, all 3 of them are healthy. Ingram's ready to play. Gus is ready to play. Dobbins is ready to play. Who are you leaving out if you're going to play one single bullet like I'm gonna?
I don't go with the widers or the running back 2 from Baltimore. They don't have enough of a snap share that one's going to steal the workload. If I'm going to run a running back 2, it's going to be Tony Pollard. That's where I'm going to go. I mean, look, if you look at the games yesterday, what ended up happening? Like, weird scenarios happened. First, you have Antonio Gibson getting turf toe at the beginning of the game, 50% owned in every GPP. If you played McKissick, who was 15 to 20% owned, and there was a path for him to be successful, even if that doesn't happen to Gibson. My thought process in playing McKissick was that, yes, Gibson has been better at pass blocking recently. However, he wasn't good for a while, and this is going to be a pass rush unlike that they've seen so far this year. So maybe McKissick gets some more runs, and if he's in there, maybe he gets some more catches, and he becomes viable from that standpoint. Now, obviously, the 1% situation where he ends up becoming the starting running back occurs, and then you have a situation where Zach Moss in the late game fumbles on the goal line at the beginning of the game and never sees the field again. So then it's Devin Singletary. So you have these 2 RB2s that you could put in, and feasibly both had a path to success outside of what actually happened, but like the best possible situation happened for both of them. Won a guy $1 million. So those are the situations you kind of have to look at. And if you're just running one lineup, and you're hoping that you're going to win, you have to have some of those low-owned weird guys. And I think Tony Pollard's your RB2, man.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Hey, we do have a time-sensitive Facebook question, so let me pop it up here. All right. Okay, guys, so I need 27.3 combined points between Cooper and Zeke tonight, full point PPR. How confident are you that can happen? If it does, I clinch 6th seed in my playoffs. Compliments of Jeremy Allen off of our Facebook feed. I've already said that I'm not a big fan of Zeke tonight. I wish I had better news for you from my standpoint. I could see Zeke getting kind of completely shut out, to be honest. And get 40, 50 all-purpose yards, a couple catches, but kept out of the end zone. But, of course, it's Zeke. They're going to pound him if they get close. So if he falls in that end zone, you might get lucky on that. Cooper, I think, is going to get a lot of targets. He's going to get the ball forced to him a lot. It's just a matter of, is he going to come down with him?
Yeah, man, it's time to start cleaning up the locker room. It's not going to happen. I think it could. I'm just not very confident in that happening.
Yeah, I wish we had better news for you. We're not high on the Cowboys tonight, my friend. Sorry, but Mark in the chat room says he thinks you're going to get it 28.25. He's predicting for you. So you got a little get a little love from Mark in the chat room. All right. Moving on. All right, so I'm going to start and just see what we can get away with here. So slap Lamar in that spot up there, and it really of course he's the most expensive player as well, so it really kind of limits what you can do from there on. You only have 6,500 per a piece for every single spot in the flex. So you got to get low. So I like your idea to put Tony Pollard in there. If Zeke's ineffectual and they start needing a little bit more run, they might slap him in there. Who knows? I like my boy Devin because I'm probably going to go ahead and drop Baltimore D's in there. So
wait, what are we doing here? I just shared my screen. Let's go.
All right. Pop it up.
I want to look at you doing this on your phone.
There you go. Pop it up. We're going to build a lineup here. If you are watching at home, if you can see that from your phone, if you're watching on the phone, I don't know. Slap Lamar Jackson in that captain spot.
All right.
Boom. Slap that Baltimore D up in there. Those are the two I got to have.
Okay.
If I'm going to play the D, I got to play Devin Duvernay because I also think he's going to be their number 2 wide receiver for the night, but he also gets those return points. Now we're talking about a little bit better there. Now we can pretty much fit anybody we want in there. I like Tony Pollard on the other side getting weird because, you got to get weird to hit one of these big ones, right?
Sure.
Now you got 23 left, so you can put anybody else you want in there. What are you thinking now?
You want a guy that has the highest total in this situation, and if you're thinking that the D is going to be dominating, I think maybe you go with like a kind of an Amari Cooper and maybe like a Hollywood, or you go with something like a Dobbins and a Cooper. I mean, look, you can do anything at this point. If this is your weird core, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could go do something like kind of Des Bryant and then Andy Dalton. Look, Andy Dalton throws 2 pick sixes. He gets the ball right back after. So, I mean, who cares?
I like it. Yeah, I'm skipping Zeke. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I don't even want him in this lineup. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, look, Zeke's fine. That's not the way that we're building. It's not where I like, but I think he has probably the highest ceiling aside from Cooper. But it's really hard to hit. So let's get rid of Devin Duvernay because you don't need Devin Duvernay. You're assuming that Devin Duvernay is the guy that's going to score the touchdown on special teams. They could get a pick 6, man. I mean, you could go Tony Pollard. If you're going Tony Pollard, you're probably not going Zeke, and that's kind of the situation. But you could go Zeke right there, and then you still can do something like this. You got 6,800. I don't know. Then you maybe go Mark Ingram. I don't know.
All right. I think I fell on Lamar Jackson, Ravens, Hollywood. I'm going to go Andy because I like what you said. He throws that pick 6 but comes back. He's still got to play garbage time. He's still got to chuck the ball. I'm not going to pick one of his wide receivers. I'm just going to take his points. I'm going to put Tony Pollard in there, hoping that Zeke gets bottled up and they go change of pace. And that leaves me with $7,000 left. Oh man, I could drop Ingram in there, or I could drop CeeDee Lamb.
I mean, the big thing that we can talk about is where's your ownership going to be? That's the big thing. So how are we successful, or almost successful? I guess. I mean, it wasn't a failure, but we were almost successful. Pivoting off of Devin Booker to Darren Waller. If you were smart enough to get away from Brandon Cooks, despite my advice, over to Kiki Kute, you're feeling pretty good. If you got away from almost all of the chalk last week, you were feeling good, except for David Montgomery being the only one that really kind of smashed. And that's kind of the same thing here. So I think Lamar Jackson at 95%. I mean, that's the other thing. If you're going to make a weird lineup, and if you want one, how do they lose? How does Baltimore lose this game?
Yeah.
Well, if they lose the game, it's probably off the back of Amari Cooper and Ezekiel Elliott, right? And so if Amari Cooper has a good game, we're putting Andy Dalton in there. And then, I don't know. I think that you can get some value out of Justin Tucker coming back. Maybe Schultz right there. And then we go here. We adjust this back. Let's say Andy Dalton doesn't give us enough. Maybe J.K. Dobbins does it. Maybe you put a lineup like that. That's a 3-3 lineup if you think it's going to keep close. Cooper, Elliott, Dobbins, Tucker, Schultz, Brown.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, you've got a few ideas on how Chris thinks about building these showdown lineups. You got a few ideas about how I feel about building a few of these showdown lineups. Yeah. Let's see here. Mark says, I'm with you, Johnny Danger. Probably game script isn't looking good from Zeke.
Probable.
Probably.
No, it said probable. He corrected.
Probable. Oh, I see. Probable. All right. He also says, this is the most likely way they lose. Dalton goes to grab a Gatorade and it turns into a magic lamp and a genie appears and grants him 3 wishes. I like that too. Quite entertaining. Entertaining as always, Mark. Thank you, sir. Long-time listener, 0-time caller, Mark Andrada. I like it. All right. Well, it's almost game time, kids, so hopefully you've got your lineup in there. And you're ready to rock. I'm going to go ahead and hit send on this 25-cent jukebox. Skip and a miss. Well, apparently that contest filled, so it put me in a lower one. That's fine. I'm not going to win that either. It's totally fine. I dig him. All right, buddy. Now, let's talk about last week. Let's talk about the lineups that did win, some of the big contests you entered, the builds, some of the theories we had that were oh so close. It was kind of a week of oh so close, wasn't it?
It was. I'm going to pull up a couple lineups to kind of review here.
Mm-hmm.
A second. Through it. Let's see.
I know that you shamed me and bludgeoned me and disrespected me to the point where I pulled my Green Bay stack out, and I don't even want to talk about where that would have landed us in our seasonal spot because it would have beat you. I'm sad about that.
Green Bay stacks. It wasn't a good stack. It still wasn't a good stack.
Oh man, but it would have been because it would have had T.Y. Hilton in it. Oh, it would have been beautiful.
This is all I hear about from you on a weekly basis.
I know.
You could have won the seasonal. Yeah, so could I. So could
no,
I.
Because every time I have it set,
if I had played DJ Chark, like who had to listen to you, just like talk about come on, man. You probably at some point or another, you had every single player on the slate in one of your lineups.
No. The lineup I sent you in the chat. Minus, obviously I wasn't going to play Danny Amendola. I was just pulling your chain just to rally you up.
Oh, yeah. See, that's how it comes out.
Pretty good. That was pretty good. T.Y. Adams. It was a good lineup. Anyways, let's talk about a couple of things. How did you go, guys?
Hang on. Here we go. Let's talk about let's talk about a couple lineups here, and just how these are built. These are. In a lot of cases, not large-scale GPPs. This is a 20-person contest that we run. There was a nice buy-in, and I won it for the first time after finishing second quite a few times. I was gonna actually bug you about where my payout was coming, but I saw it come through the PayPal soon. So
yeah, dude, all these NFL games every single night is really throwing me off on my weekly balance. I didn't even realize it was freaking Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I tried to do, and in this one, I just couldn't pull the trigger on my Derek Carr stack in this. I did have quite a bit of Darren Waller. I had a lot of Derek Carr stacks, but I didn't feel, given how many times they had burned me, they had quite the floor for as you can see here, a 20-person contest. So a couple of things. I like Kirk Cousins. I thought he was going to be a vastly under-owned quarterback. I put this in the $150 sweep too. So this is kind of a lineup that I was putting in a medium-sized GPP as well. I thought Jonathan Taylor was a fantastic play, and you can see the ownership here versus the 4% that you saw in big GPPs. Very, very different. Just in a great spot. And then David Montgomery was the chalk that I wanted to eat along with Justin Jefferson. But you can see outside of Darren Waller, I did get a little cute with some Kute here and get off of that Brandon Cooks. So I was probably about 50% exposed to Brandon Cooks, and that was kind of disgusting. But where I wasn't exposed to Cooks, I had Kute. Where I didn't have Jefferson, I had Thielen. I had Dalvin Cook. Where I didn't have TJ Hawkinson, I had Darren Waller. Darren Waller would have been way better in this spot here. But if I had Darren Waller, I didn't have, Tyler Lockett, who was really, really disappointing. And I almost got overtaken by this lineup right here. There's some glaring things that, look, he scored a lot of points. But, guys, when you're doing your DFS lineups, come on, stop. Stop. You got a flex position here. It should be here. Bring this guy down here. What are you doing? Why?
Scotty.
Let's go find Mr. I would have won. Huh.
Oh, don't look at that lineup, dude. It's bad. Yeah, it's not good.
Oh, he's down.
Oh, wait, it's at the bottom, buddy. It was my worst lineup of the day. My worst lineup of the day. It was not pleasant. It was ugly. It sucked.
All right, so you 3-stack Seattle.
Yep, I did.
Okay. You didn't run it back.
I did not.
Oh, man.
I decided I hated all the Giants. I was wrong.
I mean, they still didn't score well.
No.
You got some Anthony Ferkser. You got, danger. What's this?
What, my double Hunt Chubb?
Well, Hunt could have gone here.
Oh yeah, he definitely could have.
Could have gone here.
That was all swapped out with a minute and a half before the game. It was not a good move. I tinkered. I told you it was bad. I had a whole Green Bay stack in there, and I swapped it all out at the last minute. It was ugly. It was ugly, man. Really bad. Really bad. Which sucks because it made me. It was like, oh, I got more money here. I should go with Pittman because Pittman's bigger than T.Y. Hilton.
Oh man, that was a tough lineup. Let's go to.
Wasn't good.
Let's go take a look at Mark's. Mark's usually well constructed. Let's see what happened with Mark. Oh my God, what are you doing, Mark?
He's Chicago stacked.
Oh man, so Mark. Okay, so here's the thought process here. This looks terrible right now, but Wade Gallman, came through, low owned. All the workload. You look at Trubisky. Trubisky's not a bad play here because I think he was trying to get off of the David Montgomery chalk and go with Allen Robinson. So there's that correlation. I had a little Austin Eckler. I liked Eckler. That didn't work out. Packers were a defense that I highly targeted. So I like that. And, Taylor's a nice play. I love Robert Woods as a play. Just didn't really smash, and Adam Thielen. So, this is just one of those. I really don't like Trubisky. I probably would have tried to find something else, but I think that would have changed, the overall pricing for him. So, we'll give this one an A. I like this. Austin Eckler in the late slot. Let's see. There's your stack. There it is.
Yeah, it's part of it.
Just two spots here that I wasn't a big fan of. Kenyon Drake. I just don't like any running backs against the Rams, but that's low owned. I don't think the thing is in a contest like this, you just don't have to get cute, like getting into the Wayne Gallmans and getting away from David Montgomery. I mean, even David Montgomery was only 40% owned. You also have to sometimes in this league know who you're playing against, right? Like, you're playing against mostly people from Michigan, and you're playing from people that are Lions fans. They're not going to want to roster, Chicago Bears and David Montgomery. So, 40% David Montgomery, you would have thought in a contest like this, it probably would have been like 40, 50, 60.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go look at the leader. Typically pretty sharp. And, certified chalk donkey, rather. Boom. Look at this. Cook, Booker, Kirks, Montgomery. I mean, this is when the chalk goes wrong. This is what this lineup was here.
Also, he's 150 points ahead of the guy in second place. So his chalk has worked out pretty well.
The chalk has worked this year. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Right on. But anything that you gleaned off some of the high dollar, I know you play some of these, $150 buy-in, $333 buy-in. Anything you can glean off the top end of those guys and how they were winning contests this week?
It was Darren Waller. I mean, getting away from this guy right here was one of the biggest things that you can get away from. You get away from him. You get away from him. If we go into, give me a second. Let me get into this. It takes a second to get into. Let's find it. Let's look at that lineup. That lineup did real well.
If you're just joining us, Chris is looking through we're reviewing some of the high-end buy-ins from DraftKings, big tournament wins, and just kind of looking at their strategy and trying to see what we can glean off that for Week 14. Also, just a friendly reminder, Draft for Upside is found on Facebook. You can find most of our material and weekly drops there. Our premium content, which you can find Chris's DraftKings building blocks. You can find Reginald's FanDuel building blocks. You can find my tipsy pick for your low-owned out of nowhere plays. You can find all of our stuff over there at fantasyfootballblueprint.com, where we will have Sunday. We will be live with a promo code so you can get the 2021 Fantasy Football Blueprint Draft Cheat Sheet. And that will also get you the rest of this year's in-season and DFS package. So we'll have that out for you. And we are broadcasting tonight on Notoriety Sports Network. You'll catch us here every Tuesday from 7 to 9 p.m. and you will catch our first sip. I almost said a potty word there. First sip at 10:30 in the morning to 11:30 in the morning, getting you ready for last-minute lineup changes and start sits for your every Sunday at 10:30 in the morning Eastern. All right, pull your screen back up here, Chris. There you are.
All right, so this is another lineup that I had. This is one that at one point was doing really well. Got away from that Booker, went to Waller. T.Y. Hilton was a huge conviction play. And then in a lot of cases I played, Cooks coming back or Kute coming back. And I really wish I had here because I played Mims to come back off of the Vegas stack. I wish it was Crowder. I tried to get a little bit of correlation between these two guys here, Thielen and Chark, and this didn't work out very well. I really wish
Sorry about that. That's my bad.
I wish I had gotten the correlation with maybe a Corey Davis off of Nick Chubb, who didn't quite get there, but was just so close.
So close, man. And what a disappointment, too, because they were up by 4 touchdowns in like the first freaking quarter and just didn't pound it out with Chubb and Hunt. They just kept throwing the ball. Yeah,
so if you take a look at this lineup right here, which took it down 238, which was, pretty high in terms of, even the 150, which was a little bit higher. We'll talk about that one in a second. You got your Jared Goff to Cooper Kupp. I think Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp were about similar ownership projections. I liked Woods a little bit more, but Kupp was in a fine spot. That didn't work out wonderfully. He didn't really run it back with anybody, but he did get away from, some of the chalk. He got rid of away from the Booker chalk with Waller, had Davis, which was just an absolute blow up at 7%. Adam Thielen, which we discussed, you just wanted to have one of those. And when you get into these bigger contests, sometimes correlation isn't going to be 100%. But then Aaron Jones, super low owned, breaks out that long, I think it was a catch late in the game. No, it was a run. I'm sorry. It was a run. And, gets this guy into first place here. You look at some of these other lineups. Derek Carr, Darren Waller, Justin Jefferson, Woods. This was really the guy. Corey Davis was the guy that you needed to have in a lot of cases. Or if you didn't have Darren Waller, you had to have Kute. The Patriots defense, just, there were a couple spots that you could get away from the chalk and get some lone guys that scored a lot. And I think the Patriots defense was a pretty smart and sharp play, as they've played much, much better as of late. And this was kind of a performance very similar to that of what we saw early in last season, where they were winning people GPPs.
For sure. And, we hit a lot of this on Sunday morning when Lou was on the show. We talked about Corey Davis. We talked about Jamison Crowder. We talked about our love for Waller. We got a lot of things right. And it just was like watching you guys show some of your lineups. Of course, I wasn't really playing. I played a couple of free contests in our contest. But I was just kind of living vicariously through you guys, and even the showdowns where like you were just like you had the wrong kicker. You had all the right lineup, and the only thing that didn't get you the chop for the win was you had the wrong team's kicker.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty good week for us. I mean, I called the Cleveland upset, of course. Fantastic, because I'm amazing. Wrote it on the chalkboard for everybody. It was a beautiful thing. And I don't know if you saw that, but I came down the next day and my kid had scribbled out Browns on the Browns win and wrote Pirates win and drew a sword. It was pretty fun.
I did.
Very entertaining.
So I've got this one pulled up. I don't know if you have. All right, here we go. So with this one, I think this one correlates a little bit better, but it 254 points. It's a huge total. You've got the Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams. But then from there, you got some correlation. You've got Waller. Like we said, almost had to have Waller. You had the Patriots defense. Like this guy picked out a lot of them, but then you have that correlation with the Hilton and the Kute play. One kind of precipitated the other. It's not always like that, but for a lot of situations when you look at these games, you want somebody that's running back in a game or in one of those game environments.
Yeah, and of course you were all over Mr. T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah.
Oh, you were begging people to play T.Y. Hilton.
That was my guy.
Yeah, and we liked Kuti. We liked Colter better at first, but then of course he was ruled out, so we switched our love to Kuti. But that was after the shows had aired. That was just kind of in our chat. But yeah, man, I mean, I can't say disappointed in Thielen and Cook. They certainly put up good numbers. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys we love. We love Mike Gesicki. I mean, we had a lot of the right guys, just didn't have them quite in the right spots, and that is the story of DFS, right?
That is in fact the story.
That is the story of a lovely family. Something along those lines. All right. Love it. All right, we killed that first hour, my friend. How about that?
I'm going to need a quick break here to get some ice for my glass.
All right, you go do that. I'll do a little station identification.
Take me less than a minute.
I like it. All right, while he's refilling his ice and his whiskey, I am going to remind you again, I am Johnny Danger. That is Chris Emmerich. We are from Draft for Upside. You can find our work on our Facebook page. Our webpage went a little derelict because we joined forces with fantasyfootballblueprint.com, where you can find all of our premium stuff over there. There will be a special. I believe it is going to be $27, I believe, if I am not mistaken. You will get access to the Fantasy Football Blueprints cheat sheet for your draft in 2021 and access to the rest of the year's premium content for the last few weeks. So that's going to be super cheap and very helpful. So I highly suggest that you look for our promo codes that will go out on our Facebook page and the email shortly, and of course on our show Sunday morning, 10:30, right here on Notoriety Sports Network. First Sip with Draft for Upside. We'll get that promo code out for you and get that all taken care of, and you'll be able to join in on us there. All right, he's Gatorated up. He's ready for his next glass of whiskey.
Yeah.
Mr. Emmerich, is it time to take our way to the hell early look at Week 15, seeing that we are just now finishing the last game of Week 14, which kicks off in about 5 minutes?
Yeah, it is, but let's do it. Let's just run through these. We got 13 games because we are done with bye weeks at this point. I don't know if they're going to do any type of Saturday games this year.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the schedule going ahead. I don't know if they even have anything really set in stone with all the COVID issues going around. They might just be kind of biding their time in case they have to add a week or two to the schedule. Could still happen. Love it. And thanks for the shout out, Mark, in the chat room. We do get some of the best plays on our Sunday morning show. We kind of get our final thoughts, which is
okay.
neat.
We are going to get some Saturday games, not this week, but after that. I mean, we've got we got a double hit our Saturday.
I like it.
Nice.
All right, how about we start off with the Thursday night game? We normally cover that in pretty good detail because we had been on Wednesday night, so we kind of break it down. But I feel like we did a lot of breakdown of Showdown and single game. So how about we just take our quick thoughts here? We've got the New England Patriots heading out to LA to play the Rams. 5.5-point favorites are the home team, and 45, very low over-under. Probably expecting that Rams defense to continue to be solid, and of course that big performance from the Patriots defense just yesterday. Yeah,
I mean, I think that this is going to be a game where I like Cooper Kupp. I like Robert Woods. I'd like it to be a low-scoring game, so I like some of those guys that are going to get the high volume catches. I don't really see New England's offense being able to do much, but at the same time, I don't think the Rams are just going to blow anybody away. Cam Akers has looked far and away much better than Henderson, much better than Brown, and he is starting to get the carry, so I think you can kind of even plug him into a lineup.
Yeah, you're going to see him in my waiver wire article for the 4th straight week, probably, because people just aren't listening. He was clearly starting to become the favorite. He really showed he was the favorite this last week, and he could be a nice leverage for you as an injury just in case for your season-long fantasy leagues. Hopefully, if you're in the playoffs and your season-long, you aren't needing the help of a Cam Akers. But if you are thin at running back or get an injury, he's a guy that I'm still looking at to have a solid end to the year for the Rams. So I dig that. What do you make of that backfield with the Patriots there? I really thought White would be a bigger part of that game. They really kind of turned to Harris more than I thought they would. Of course, they were up big, had a huge defensive game. Is that just game script, or do they just really like Harris that much?
No, I mean, Harris is going to be the guy that runs, and I think that's partially game script, yeah.
I mean, I honestly, I didn't see that kind of a blowout coming that night. I was very under-owned on the Patriot players in the contest I played yesterday.
No, I didn't see that type of blowout coming either.
Yeah, I was sadly disappointed. I played a couple of lineups, and I just, when that game started going, I'm like, yeah, this is over for me. There's no point here. So, yeah, I mean, I think I like the Rams even at that -5.5. That probably becomes you think it gets bigger than 5.5, or do you think it comes back towards the Patriots?
No, I think that's a pretty fair line.
Yeah, I kind of like that 5.5. I don't know if it'll make my best picks this week. I climbed up over 60% accurate this week. You like that?
Yeah, you've been doing a great job.
Yeah, I mean, every time I have a killer week, though, Lou just gets one more than me, which is great. You know, Team Lou. Team Lou. I like that. Mark is asking about Jalen Hurts. Supposed to get the start. Yes. Go back and watch the first 15 minutes of the show. We had special guest Dylan Beeks in, who is the founder of Notoriety Sports Network and a huge Philly fan. He broke that all down for us. And, of course, you can check out the posts on the Facebook page, Notoriety Sports Network. All things Philly are definitely covered over there.
Guess we have some Dez news.
Oh, Dez news. What's up with the Dez news? Right. Chris is looking.
Okay, well, he had a positive COVID test, and then he decided to just retire for the rest of the season.
Very nice. Very, very nice. All right, bye, Des. You were a non-factor, so it doesn't move the chain for me.
I probably had him in one lineup or something. Wait,
nope.
I still have time. Nope, I don't.
No, just barely. Damn, we should watch that chat a little better, shouldn't we?
Well,
it's tough having a show on game night, isn't it?
I mean, that's your job. You're supposed to be checking that for me.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, I'm looking at see where we're going to go. All right, let's go into the Windy City, shall we? Let's go Houston Texans heading over to play the Chicago Bears. 44.5 is the total there. -2 favorite are the road team. I mean, is this another Kiki Kuti game? Can he get away with what he got away with before?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a possibility. Give me a second here. Let me pull this up.
I mean, David Montgomery is going to continue to have a great matchup here. So he's going to have yet another week of just looking great, which just makes Chris angry that we have to keep talking about David Montgomery every week. But he's a good play against the Texans, man. You have to play him. He's getting like freaking all the touches, and it's yet another prime matchup at home. It's David Montgomery week again, buddy. I know you hate it. You don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at something here. I'm trying to figure something out.
All right, Dylan is talking to us still. He said, found out minutes before kickoff. How many positives out there on the field right now? That's a good question, man. I mean, I've been very critical of the NFL and the way they've handled this whole thing. I don't like it. I'm shocked there hasn't been more issues.
I mean, I guess here's the thing. When it comes to David Montgomery, do you expect him to score 2 touchdowns again? I mean, that was the whole thing, is that he got the 2 touchdowns. Now his price is up. Houston has been really bad. It's one of those things, is how much chalk are you willing to eat, and how chalky is he going to be? Because he's going to be a lot more chalky than he was last week.
Yep. It's going to be interesting to see the ownership pop up on that. Yeah, I think this could be one of those, fade him, go to Allen Robinson type games, but Robinson might be pretty high owned too, because Houston's team just blows on defense.
Yeah, I mean, I like those pieces. Kute, Cooks. Again, let's just take a look at ownership. When we're taking, David Johnson even found his way into the end zone. But Kute, the difference is he's up at 5K versus 3,500. Makes a huge difference. Yes, he did 25, but when we're talking about the way that we can construct our lineups and what we can put in there with him, it's vastly different when a guy's near minimum versus, still an affordable 5,000. This is not a game off the top of my head I'm super interested in, but it is one to kind of monitor and think about. Is Houston's offense is still very legit, and Chicago's just kind of on a downswing here, like a monumental downswing.
It's true, and I know that, how many times have my wonderful theories panned out, but at 44.5 being a very low-scoring projected game with a Houston offense that can blow up any given opponent, and with a Bears team that does have playmakers in Robinson and Montgomery in good matchups, this could be one of those games that goes underlooked with the low Vegas total that could actually, be a good opportunity for points. So I'm going to keep it in the back of my mind, but I'm not overly enthused about either side of this on a Tuesday evening at 8:09 p.m.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Tennessee Titans heading to the Jacksonville Jaguars. 53 points there. The road team is favored 7.5. The Titans favored 7.5. Henry let us down with his December numbers this last week, but this could be a game where he could double up on it and get right back on track to his December from last year.
Yeah, I mean, I like Henry initially just thinking about it, but I just wonder how much other people are going to like him.
I think a lot. I think he's going to be massively owned, going to be very expensive. I
mean, he's 8,700. So he is expensive, and that should drive down the ownership. If we can get him around 10, 15% like last week, depending on what other people, where they go and how other people are owned, I think it's a good play. But this guy creeps over 20, 25%, which is possible. I can't really see that, but if he does, then I'm definitely on the side of fading.
Oh man, flipping through my YouTube TV here and trying to find the game so I can put that on up above my head. There we go. All right, rock and roll. Yeah, man, I noticed in the chat that, or I guess if you noticed in the chat that I jumped in on one of those little head-to-head snake drafts, and Henry was the one I picked right away because, there's no cost to it. You're just picking in a snake draft. At raw point total, I think he's number 1 on the week just on the early look. But what did you think of my strategy there when I went number 1 overall? The other guy takes Mahomes and Devontae Adams, so I came back and just took his 2 top receivers, and Hill and Kelsey. They're fine targets anyways. Who are they playing? They're playing Miami, which isn't the best matchup, but just messing with the guy. I thought it was pretty funny, personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good strategy. Sure.
Yeah. Pretty funny. But what about the Tennessee Titans defense? How are they against 6'4" receivers? You're not going to let me go down that rabbit hole again this week, are we?
I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
So bounce back week for DJ Chark. The flop lag happens all the time. We talk about flop lag a lot. I think I have to go back to Chark again because Tennessee is giving up points. I like James Robinson in this. I could play a lineup where my single guy from this game is Henry on one side and Robinson on the other.
No, I absolutely like DJ Chark. I mean, he ended up with 7 targets, 132 air yards, led the team in all of those categories. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, throw it back at it. Corey Davis, man, turned it into an absolute beast. I mean, they've been saying for years that this guy has this ability, and I just love seeing it as a guy from Michigan. Got to watch him play some college ball live once. It was pretty cool, pretty exciting, fun to watch him play.
You gonna every time we talk about Corey Davis, are you gonna tell that story?
Yeah, man, root for him. Oh, come on, mister. Have you ever seen any of our golf shows?
Yeah, I'm just saying, look, we don't need to reference his college every single time. Every single.
We have to.
No,
we absolutely have to.
Absolutely not.
We absolutely have to.
Information.
How about what?
Come up with some new stuff. Let's get how tall is he? What kind of bicep size he has? His shoe size. Compare that to other wide receivers that are going against Jacksonville, and just wide receivers with a 17 cleat.
You got it, man. Sunday morning's content is going to be a cleat size comparison.
Excellent. I can't wait.
Are you looking forward to it?
Yes, absolutely.
I like it. One guy said, oh, man, that's too funny. The Bigfoot show. Ryan says he'd be on that show. I like it. Moving on. Oops, lost my page. Moving on. Here we go. Denver Broncos heading to Carolina. I don't have a spread or a total for this one on my sheet here, so maybe you could help me out with that.
I'm looking at a 47. It looks like Denver is the dog, but only Robbie Anderson is kind of available for the wide receivers in terms of the Carolina Panthers. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, both COVID-19 list. Christian McCaffrey should come back. He's going to be at 9,200. I think, if anything, that's what's going to drive down the ownership on the other side of things for Derrick Henry, in the sense that Christian McCaffrey should be massively owned in this situation. Not particularly a great matchup, but not a bad one. At the same time, you just have to assume that he's just going to get an obscene amount of touches, because there's just nobody else in this offense that's healthy. On the other side of things, Melvin Gordon's in a great matchup here against Carolina, but hasn't been anything really to get excited about. And in terms of Carolina's rush D, much better against Minnesota, much better against Detroit. Have they figured it out? They were pretty decent against Kansas City and Atlanta after a lot of their early season struggles. So we'll see.
It's going to be interesting to watch that ownership between Henry and McCaffrey, and I like both plays, and just kind of come down to an ownership play, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll talk about the other guy that's over 9K that I suspect will probably have lower ownership between all three of them.
All right. Well, probably we'll get there in a minute. All right, let's keep moving on here. The Dallas Cowboys on a very quick turnaround, heading into Cincinnati Bengals, two teams that are on a complete and utter slide, but the total only 43.5. 3.5 favorites are the Cowboys. Watch that line after whatever happens today. Could drastically change. I mean, you could see this go either way, right? You could see a complete and utter ineptitude from both offenses, or you can see a complete and utter ineptitude from both defenses and actually see this game blow up in points. Where do you think this goes? I mean, 43.5 is very low for two teams whose defensively are terrible.
Yes, but when you look at Cincinnati's defense recently, they've actually they've played better. They've been bad against the running back, which was a spot that they weren't exactly good at. But, I mean, they're not giving up the 45, 60, 75 points to wide receivers. They've only given up 15, 23, and 29 against the football team, the Giants and the Dolphins over the last 3 weeks. So, have they fixed something from a scheme standpoint? Probably not. They gave up 27 and 20 points in the last 2 weeks to tight ends. I don't think Schultz is going to be that guy, but this is a revenge game. This is Andy Dalton returning to his old stomping grounds in Cincinnati.
Dude, I think I'm going to go over to our bet page right now, and I'm going to put it the over 43.5. I think it's just got to be done. I mean, Andy Dalton's going to put up 38 on his own.
This is a spot. This is like a CeeDee Lamb. This is a Michael Gallup. These are the two guys that I'm probably going to look to stack here. I think you can bring it back with Tyler Boyd as long as he doesn't, get into a fight with anybody. 4,900 is a great price. AJ Green was throwing the ball quite a few times. Despite what Brandon Allen might think, AJ Green is not 9 feet tall. A lot of the passes were way over his head. If he was 9 feet tall, can you imagine what he would do to the Minnesota Vikings secondary?
Right? If Shaq only weighed like 220 and ran a 4.45.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this is not – so this is one of those games that's really weird because you look at the Vegas total. I think this feels a lot like the Vegas-Jets game last week where low point total, two teams that are bad, but, certainly has some pop-off capabilities as a result. It's just you have to get the right pieces. It's scattered amongst them. There's a lot of viable options. This would have been a hellish game to game stack if Joe Burrow and Dak were in this because then, you've got three viable receivers on both sides. You got running backs that just have not been very good for a long time. And, it seems like a long time. Look, it's been a long year, guys. Give me a break. They might have been good last year.
Right.
But whatever. Let's go to the next game.
I'm gonna put this down. I already put it in the best bets. 43.5 over right here. Already done.
Done.
I dig it. I keep losing my spot because I keep going back to my app and it keeps going back to the previous week because we're still in it with a live game going on right now.
All right. Well, let's go to Kansas City. We'll be visiting the Miami Dolphins with Tua. Really need a big game from the earlier mentioned Derrick Henry and then also from Patrick Mahomes in this game. So you've already mentioned that you have both of the pass catchers, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce in your lineup. This Dolphins team has been relatively good at shutting down primary pass options. So I floated the idea that we want to go to Mecole Hardman. We want to go to Sammy Watkins. These are the guys that are going to blow up this week, right?
you know it because, when I play the Pittsburgh team last night, I play freaking Ebron, Claypool, and Juju. And who catches all the fucking balls? Washington and Johnson. So that's it's just the way it goes, man. It doesn't matter the script. It doesn't matter who we call. Whoever Johnny Danger plays, you play the other guys and you tear it up. That's how it works. We just had a Lamar Jackson turnover, by the way. So Dallas with the ball at the 35. So yeah, man. I mean, Kansas City's defense has been better. I really wish Fitzpatrick was playing in this game. I just am still baffled why they keep starting Tua, and it sucks because they keep winning. I think if they would have got embarrassed last week, which they really tried in every possible way to give the game away on Sunday, and just ended up winning anyways. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like this game. I kind of like Gesicki again. Gaskin's had a good game.
Yeah, Gaskin is the guy that I like here, provided his ownership is reasonable, which I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be relatively high, given he's still 5,600. Just had a lot of touches in the red zone. I think he's going to, return to his workhorse ways. I like Gesicki too, but I think that's fool's gold. He has that one good game, and he's like, "Hey, you should play me." And you're like, "Yeah, fuck this guy's awesome." He's like,
yeah, we've talked about him all. Now we've talked about him all year. Now that he's finally have this game, we're never going to mention him again. We're out.
Yeah, I mean, so. I don't know. I like Gaskin. That's my early read on this. And then, you can play anybody from Kansas City. It really doesn't matter. Again, it's just who fits price-wise. You're paying an extreme premium to get Travis Kelce, which is always the challenge. But, I mean, really, he's paid off almost every single week, which is the crazy thing. He's been so good for so long that you expect this from him, but he's 4x his salary almost everywhere. So, if you can get and that's probably the play. Look,
and this is even better than Gronk's run, man.
If we're being honest, and that's all we are, we're honest. There's no shenanigans. We're not recounting anything. We're not running anything through two machines or anything like that. Who knows? Travis Kelce and Gaskin's the play from this game right here. That's it. So be done. Let's go to the next game.
All right, the next game is another one that for some reason the totals are not on my particular app that I use. Arizona Cardinals heading to the New York Giants, 1 p.m. game. Kyler, man, still looks a little off to me. I'm not going to lie. He still looks a little rough. He's not being himself. And but it's the Giants, but they are at home. The Giants have not been...
This is the Giants are 2.5-point dogs, 45-point over under. I don't think it's so much Kyler has looked off. I think the play calling has been bad. There was a tweet that went out. I can't remember who it was by, but I know Avin Levitan went ahead and retweeted it. But it just showed basically the route tree that DeAndre Hopkins had the last couple of weeks and last week in particular. And it's unimaginative. It's on one side. It's really bad. But part of that was just kind of some of the pressure that was getting to Arizona. So they have been figured out in some sense. You don't see Kyler running the ball as much, and I don't think that's a result of his shoulder. I don't think you need your shoulder to run. Last time I checked, I don't know, unless you're like a shoulder runner. I don't know what I was going to say there, but anyway, so I don't know. I'm probably staying away from this game. You want to say that it is the Giants, but the Giants have been.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Is that they have not been walkovers. They have not been. They have not been, pushovers that they were at the beginning of the year. So,
but let's talk about those 4 wins. This last one, that's quality win. But then before that, they beat the Bengals, the Eagles. Sorry, guys, and the Washington football team. So not exactly a murderer's row. Like, wow, this is the team. I don't know. I think the guy that I want to go back to in this game that's going to be massively underlooked. That Mr. Fitzgerald's coming back, but I think it's Christian Kirk. Want to get a little Christian Kirk action? Maybe, I don't know.
I could get into that. I like Christian Kirk. All right, let's keep moving on. Minnesota Vikings heading to Tampa Bay. 52 points here. 6.5 points favorites are the Buccaneers at home. What do you think, man? I mean, we are Team Vikings every week, aren't we?
Man, this is going to be a good one, and a good one from a fantasy perspective. Look, I don't want to play Dalvin Cook here, and maybe that's the contrarian play. But when you look at what this Tampa Bay defense has done to running back so far this year, last couple games, Kansas City 10 points, the Rams 15 points. This is fantasy points allowed to to the running backs as a whole. Carolina 11, 23 and 24 to the Giants and the Saints, but then it was 11, 19, 18, 13, 13. Some reason gave up 40 to the Panthers, but on the other side of things, 82, 76, 30, 40, 37, 39. They've been giving up massive amounts of points to wide receivers. And what does Minnesota have? They've got 2 fantastic receivers. They got Jefferson, they got Thielen. I'm going to have at least one, maybe both of them.
2 guys that regularly go over 30 points.
Absolutely. Jefferson, 7,400 now. More expensive than Thielen.
I mean, so what are you doing here? Are you doing a full game stack here with, like, say, Brady, Godwin, Brown, and then back it up with Thielen and Jefferson? You go the whole gambit, 5 players from this game?
No, absolutely not. You need
Come on now.
You need a 40, 50-point game from there. Maybe I'll do that in the early only. But
also, you don't have enough salary to put anybody else in your lineup.
I do like Antonio Brown. I think Antonio Brown's probably the play here. Chris Godwin's okay. I mean, you can play any one of these guys. Just kind of take a look at the ownership, who fits in there. They're all good. They're all wonderful people.
Yeah, this is the only downside of doing the Tuesday show, my friend, is it's just too early for me to break down things I want to get into. But that's fine. We'll pivot, we'll move, we'll get more in depth on Sunday mornings.
All right, well, let's talk about the last game on the early slate. It's going to be the Indianapolis Colts traveling to the city of sin, Las Vegas, the Raiders. Derek Carr, Darren Waller won a bunch of money. Finally. As I said in the chat, I know I have enough money that I could follow this stack till the end of time, and eventually I would get paid off on it. Still haven't got paid off on it. It was close. But I think they've adjusted David Carr's price. Now he's got that 6 in front of his salary, and it's
gross, especially against the Colts. It's gross.
I mean, yeah, but the Colts have been, susceptible recently.
I just want you to know at the end of that drive, if you weren't watching, that the redheaded stepchild missed Gallup in the corner for a touchdown. Just want you to know that.
I am not watching. I will turn it on shortly. That's in like 30 minutes.
3-0 Dallas, if you were curious. But just thought I would share that with you. Yeah, I like the Colts side of this. I like Hines or Taylor. I'll figure out which guy I like. I like one of the running backs there. I don't know. Ty maybe even keeps it going, stays hot. You can't not like Waller. I mean, Waller is just if there's been one other really consistent guy this year, it's probably been Waller and Ingram maybe. But like, yeah, man. I mean, looking through just go through the game logs of tight ends on the season, man. And it's just, I mean, I know you have. It's just ugly. It's basically Kelsey, sometimes Waller, sometimes Ingram, and like literally nobody else is just steady and consistent. TJ Hawkinson was for a while. I think he got back on this last week, didn't he? He did all right. But I like Waller a lot. It's hard to get away from him. I have him on every single one of my seasonal leagues, so
I'm going to be interested to see what happens to T.Y. Hilton's ownership. They rocketed his price up to 5,100. He was just vastly under-owned last week. He had been coming off the best game that he'd had pretty much for the season, with a 4 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown against Tennessee. And then, he gets this game against Houston, 110 and a touch, and he probably should have had more. I felt like they kind of got away from him. And, it's one of those qualms that I have about NFL coaches that it seems like it's not even adjustments. It just feels like when they get ahead and something works, they get away from it after a while instead of just hammering it home. Like Darren Waller didn't have a reception like between halftime and like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter after having 15 and just gashing the Jets before that. Why wouldn't you just continually go to him? I don't know. I don't watch the tape. Maybe they took it away. I don't think that that's the case. I think people get a little too smart, just like you trying to put Danny Amendola in your lineup.
I want you to know I played 0 Danny Amendola. Wow. I did play a couple of Humphreys, though.
Oh, and he's got a concussion now. I hope you're happy.
I know. I'm telling you, man, what you need to do is you need to figure out guys that you need to have bad games, and you need to pay me to put them in lineups for you. And I'll be your professional cooler. I'll be your William H. Macy, brah.
Got it. Yeah, so I'm interested there. I think the wide receivers. This is definitely a game where we're looking at the wide receivers from Indianapolis as opposed to the running backs. Jonathan Taylor's been one of the best receiving running backs so far this season. I want to throw this out. 3 targets, 3 receptions, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 4, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 6. This is kind of like, I mean, I could have gone to the bottom line. 30 targets, 29 catches. Why are you playing Nyheim Hines? Why? He's not as good.
True story. I really like this game, Chris, because it's a 4:05 start game, okay? And you tend to get a little less ownership in the later games, but look at the other late games. When you start looking at the later games, you've got the Seahawks guys, you got the Packers guys, the Falcons, the Chargers, the Saints. I mean, you got a lot of big offenses playing in the later game. I think you could have some really under-owned leverage in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't the only thing that I can imagine is that this game might be a little more highly owned than it would have been if it wasn't for last week. I think this Raiders explosion is something where you're going to see a lot of that ownership go back to Darren Waller. I mean, he's up at 6,800. Truth be told, if I have to pay 6,800 for Darren Waller, I'm not interested. So I'll be interested to. Not interested.
That is a very good point. What is Kelsey at? Because if you're paying 6,800 for,
if you're getting up there, I'd much rather go to Kelsey, and
sure.
The ownership will be similar. If there's a large disparity, it's certain that changes the dynamic of it.
And let's see what the heck just happened. I think Lamar just ran. Yep, Lamar just ran one right up the middle for 30 yards. Boom.
Got like 40 some rushing yards already.
Yeah, he just had a 35-yard rushing touchdown.
52. Yeah.
52.
52. We just need another 4 more yards.
Yeah, man. You got this. I like it. All right, man. Let's keep moving, man. We have a lot of afternoon slate. This is a fun slate to play early and then play late. Are you going to do more early and then late slates than you are full slates?
No.
Because they're split kind of 50-50.
Well, I always do it because I do the smaller lineups.
Right.
But I won't play as much in the afternoon with a 5. It's not. I remember I'm a 3-game guy.
I got 6 games 4 o'clock after on my sheet.
I know. I prefer it to be 3.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to the Russell Wilson gets back right game. The New York Jets traveling out west to the Seattle Seahawks. 13-point favorites are Seattle, 46.5, which I imagine 45 are going to be Seahawks points. So, man, I think the Seahawks are going to come out mad and hungry. And, I just really like Russ to have a Russ Cooks game here. I don't know why, man. I just think that they need to get him back involved. They've been scared a few times. They got beat. He's not been looking great. I know that their coach wants to run the ball, but they just don't look as good when they're running the ball. They just got to let Russ throw it. I think they got to let him get back into a rhythm in this game.
Yeah, definitely. I am probably going to go with what we've typically gone with, and that's going to be Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf, whichever one is lower owned. I think it's going to be Lockett, and justifiably, but 1,200 lower ownership, same ceiling. I'm all for it. Lockett.
Yeah, I really want to see them come out and just let Russ open up the first half, just get up to like literally 32-7, and then play the running game the rest of the game. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
So I like this game a lot. For the Seahawks side, I mean, Crowder and when Darnold's on, man, Crowder and him just click, and that was the play last week, was having Crowder in your lineups. I mean, that was just awesome. Can he pull it off against the Seahawks, who have looked better in the secondary?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can play Crowder. I think you can go back to Mims. If you just take a look at his target share from week to week, it's been much higher than it was last week. I think that's more of an aberration than it is going to be the rule. And I'd rather go with what I don't want to just take one single game and ride it out.
For sure. No, I'm going to target this game. I like the Seahawks. I won't be alone, but I like it. Moving on, we got a nice divisional game here. We got the Green Bay Packers heading into Detroit, 55.5. Only 8-point favorites are the Packers. I figured that'd be a little bit higher even on the road, to be honest. But I guess Detroit looked okay. I mean, I wish Mark was on the show today so he could talk about his feelings of the new coach and how that game went. But maybe you have some opinions on the new coach and how that game went for Detroit. Let's back up to Week 13 and the Matt Patricia-less Lions. What did you like about that game?
I mean, it was a good game. They won. Mark seems extremely excited, so it's only going to be, another month or two before something, dampens his spirits. Perennially pessimistic about the Lions is Matt, or is Mark. God, man, this is rough. I was just reading an article about Matt Patricia. Saw a little blurb on him, and so I got there. It looked like the Lions' offense had opened up, and they had talked about it. That's what was out in the press, that Bevel was going to do this. This was going to look more like the offense from the beginning half of last year. So we'll see if that continues. The thing about the Green Bay defense, which we've talked about, is that their weakness is the rushing game. So is Swift going to be back? Is he recovered from the concussion? And if he is, I love playing him. I don't see a Q tag on him, but again, it's early in the week, and he looked like he was going to play this time last week, but he didn't end up playing. On the other side of things, do you think Aaron Jones is going to slice up the Lions like he did last time? Probably. Is Devontae Adams going to eat them, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Probably. Is Aaron Rodgers going to have a wonderful game and be a viable fantasy target? Absolutely. I mean, this guy has put up a ton of points every single week. Last week being one of his lower totals of the season, and it was still very, very good. So I like everything on the Green Bay side of things. I think Green Bay just kind of smashes the Lions. Hopefully, though, with this new look Lions offense, they can keep them honest and keep them scoring. And this could be a game that you want to target for DFS. Absolutely.
I mean, I like to play Rodgers every single week. Well, hey, before we move on, we've got a guest up here in the green room. Our next guest is well known from his time as a host on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. He's worked for Roto Experts, Scout.com, and recently Sports Illustrated. His legendary visionary plays have won many fantasy football managers at season-long championships and DFS contacts alike. Please welcome to Draft for Upside, Dr. Roto.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
We're doing pretty well, Doc.
Not as well as Chris Emmerich there, who won the draft for beer last week.
That's right, man. That's
Good job.
$90 in bragging rights. They go a long way.
I don't know if you'd heard, but Danger had a lineup at some point that would have won for the 13th week in a row that he didn't play.
Oh, you too?
That's right.
Yeah.
Every time.
Actually, I'm going to tell you, I played the Patriots in many lineups, but I didn't want to have them everywhere because I felt like I was having them too much. But let's just say on another site, I took them down last second and put in the Cardinals. That's what we call a bad life decision.
What Danger does
to your poor friend.
That's all I do, man. I should just change my tag. See where it says tipsy picks right here? I should just change that to poor life decisions.
Yeah. Is that Twitter handle taken?
Poor choices DFS. That's where you can find nice stuff at. Well, we just started talking about Green Bay heading into the Lions, Doc. Do you have any thoughts there with Matt Patricia gone? Did you see anything in that game that gives you any kind of hope for the Lions fans or for DFS plays coming out of Detroit for the last couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, isn't Marvin Jones have the most air yards in the last month or something crazy like that? Like they're really throwing the ball downfield to him. And you got to hope that Darrell Belvin's going to open up the offense a little bit. So they scored 64 points between the Bears and the Lions. That's hopeful. So the only thing that I think suffocates this game is pace of play and if Aaron Jones runs for 180 yards against the Lions. Otherwise, I think there's a real good chance that it could be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, Aaron Jones going to be heavily targeted this week in DFS. Going to be way up there in ownership for sure. All right.
Chris, what do you think? Would you play? Or you think Jones is going to be 25% owned?
I can't imagine that he would be that high owned, and if he was, I'd want no part of it. But I mean, his air yards are up there. I mean, they're very comparable to Devontae Adams, DJ Chark.
No, I was saying Aaron. Do you think Aaron Jones is going to be 25%?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, and we talked about this. I think he should be, but there are a lot of guys that are going to take away from that ownership. You've got David Montgomery that is probably going to be 30% owned, somewhere in that range because he's going against Houston. You've got Christian McCaffrey playing on Carolina with absolutely nobody else in the offense. You'd think that he's going to have a ton of ownership.
And Derrick Henry for sure.
Yeah, and Derrick Henry going against Jacksonville. Both of those guys are pretty pricey. So are you going to be able to fit a 7,600 Aaron Jones? And then on top of that, you've also got Austin Eckler at 7,000 going against Atlanta. There are a lot of good options, byproduct of a 13-game slate.
Right. I mean, this is the biggest slate we've seen pretty much since, week 2?
Pretty close to it, yeah.
Quick live update, touchdown to Michael Gallup.
Whoa, who's that guy? By the way, Tony Pollard, just to check in, has 1 rushing yard for you.
He almost broke the kick return for a touchdown. He had like an 80-yard kick return.
Wasn't Gallup also really high in air yards too? He's been due for the last couple of weeks, and he finally broke one out here.
Well, Doc, if you sadly would have joined us more often over the last 3 years, you're sitting right next to, in Chris Emmerich here, the world's first and most prominent Michael Gallup truther for the last 3 years straight.
I was on Michael Gallup when Michael Gallup was 3,000 in DraftKings, dropping passes, overrunning Dakota Prescott's poor arm, and then finally it started to come together for him. Other people were on it, but I was there. I was there before I was the number 1 analyst for the American Alliance of Football.
Look, they drafted him to be their number 1 receiver, right? And all of a sudden they traded for Cooper. So, I mean, Gallup's real deal. I mean, the question is, they just need somebody who can throw in the ball, and that's not Andy Dalton. So,
but hey, this week, did you see Andy Dalton revenge game going to Cincinnati?
Oh yeah, that can be good. That can be a good one.
We like that game coming up. All right, well, let's talk about the next game. You gonna hang out for a game or two with us, Doc?
Sure.
We got 3 left. We got 3 left.
Yeah, we only got 3 left. So there you go. We've got the Atlantic Falcons heading over to play the Los Angeles Chargers. It is a 50-point total game with the Falcons giving up 2.5 points here. For me, Gurley looks hurt again, right? They just said he had a knee injury, so they're going to limit him again. They said they're going to keep him to third downs and end zones, which is typical for Gurley for the last several years because his knee keeps breaking down. And then a Chargers team who just can't seem to, stop people from scoring. So where do you go with the Falcons players? Is it just more Julio Jones? Go ahead, Doc.
Oh, look, I'm all in on Eckler and Justin Herbert this week. I'm in on Keenan Allen. I always like guys who perform poorly the week before. So because I think the ownership, it's like the Derek Carr ownership. Nobody wants to touch him. I think this is a boom week for the Chargers. My only reservation is that the Falcons have really slowed the pace of play, and they tend to run the ball a lot. The Chargers are weak at stopping the run, as we saw. So I worry a little bit about that. But I can see Charger stacks and coming back with a Ridley or Julio and feeling good about that. I think that could cash somebody some money this week. And Hunter Henry for sure, because Atlanta can't stop the tight end.
Yeah, I think the problem with Hunter Henry, and I kind of highlighted it this past week, was just what kind of upside does he really have? I mean, he's just consistent. Four catches, 30 yards, needs almost 2 touchdowns to be out of 4 catches because he's just not getting those yardage. And that's been a problem with a lot of the tight ends. We've highlighted how good of a play Travis Kelce is, and they're obviously very different price points. But even like a TJ Hawkinson in the Lions game that, has a very real possibility of being a 30 or 40 point game, 13 games, 30 points per side. So a 70-point game. I just have a hard time going to Hunter Henry here. I mean, obviously you want to play him in seasonal, and I love him there because he's been that model of consistency. But when this guy is priced up at 4,500, that's way above where I want to pay for a tight end that, despite getting 6-7 targets, only catches the ball 4 times on a regular basis. That's my concern.
Eckler's in a great spot. I mean, Atlanta's actually decent at stopping the run. They're not good at running backs catching the ball out of the backfield. I mean, this feels like a smash spot for him. So, and he disappointed last week. So I definitely can see him in many of my lineups.
The one guy that you did mention that I really do like, and I like the passing game for the Chargers far more than Eckler here, and I think they're going to be lower owned. But that Keenan Allen's down under 8K. My rule of thumb is 7,900 and under. I'm all for it. 8,000 and over, no way. So you still, despite these 2 bad performances from Keenan Allen, 11 and 10 targets both times, or the last 2 games. So he's still getting kind of that workload that you expect from Keenan Allen. I think Herbert's going to come back. He's going to want to, get that bad taste. His first really bad game. I mean, yeah, they lost to Buffalo. That wasn't a great game, but it wasn't getting shut out by the Patriots either. So I like Keenan Allen, and I think Mike Williams down to 4,700, playable every week. 9 targets last week.
You look at my Tipsy Pick article, and at the bottom of every wide receiver section in the Tipsy Pick article, I write, just other under-owned guys that I like. Mike Williams is on that list 14 weeks in a row. I mean, the guy's under 5,000. He basically gets 6 to 8 targets every single game in a high-scoring offense. He's got multiple touchdown upside, and 4,700. They just keep pricing him down there where it's just hard to not throw him in those lineups.
And let's just talk about how insane, and I thought this was going to be a massive leak in my process last week, was Julio Jones priced at 6,600 last week. Yes, it's a hard matchup against the Saints, and they're pretty good, but then Davenport goes down, so you take injuries to the secondary, no different than what happened yesterday. Those type of things do happen, but he's still priced at 6,600. The Chargers are a decent team at this, but this is Julio Jones we're talking about. This is Julio Jones, 6,600. This is crazy. If that ownership's under 15%, that's kind of my number.
Danger, you mentioned something about Mike Williams, and in seasonal leagues, I love Mike Williams. And I love him even if I don't play him. I know that sounds crazy because the 2 or 3 weeks that Keenan Allen's injured, all of a sudden he becomes like a must play, whether it's in DFS or in seasonal. So it's one of those things where he's like your 5th receiver and you play him 3 or 4 times a year and you win those 3 or 4 times.
Doc, we really became friends, kind of bonding on Twitter, going back and forth, and you helped me a lot in seasonal leagues, and I feel like you're really, really good at the waiver wire. For us guys that are making the playoffs here, that hopefully you have a good enough team, you're not really too worried about the waiver wire, but do you have any thoughts on the waiver wire coming up this week for the first week playoff players in must-win situations?
Well, look, I think waiver wire is critical to any seasonal league, and the people who work the wire win. I mean, it just happens because there's about 5 or 6 or 7 guys a season that you want to get, and if you get them, it really pays off. Right now, I think you have to look and see where you are. So if you have a bye week, right, and coming up in week 14, you're not worrying about week 14. You're looking at the matchups for weeks 15 and 16, right, the money weeks. if you're playing next week, you're focusing 1 week at a time, or you're focusing 2 and 3 weeks down the road. So it's not, I look at that very closely. I look at playoff schedules. I look at opportunities. I look at guys who are underperforming. Like, I think Jalen Hurts would have been a great pickup regardless of what happened last week, because you knew that Wentz wasn't playing well and they could have pulled the hook at any point. So I think now's the time that you take a little risk. And here's the biggest thing. People get afraid in their fantasy football playoffs not to play their, supposedly best players. You always have to worry about the matchups, right? You don't want to lose with your best player on your bench, but at the same time, you want to win your league. And I think if you play afraid, you lose. And if you're willing to take the risk, you can be a champion.
I appreciate that. All right, we got about 10 minutes left. We got 2 games to go, so let's power through those. We've got the New Orleans Saints heading to play those Philadelphia Eagles with their quarterback change. 44.5 is the total right now. 7-point favorites are the Saints. Is Breeze coming back this week? That's a good question.
Well, first of all, I think the Saints defense is a smash spot here, because that defense is going to absolutely just destroy Jalen Hurts. And I know that there's a lot of people that on this network that like the Eagles, but let's just think about this realistically. The Saints defense is phenomenal. And then on top of that, they have the best scout team quarterback for Jalen Hurts. They have Taysom Hill. Same dude, same guy. It's the same guy. So that's all I have to say there. I think Taysom Hill is a great play. I think Mike Thomas is a great play. And yeah.
Chris, let me just throw it out at you. Would you run with naked Jalen Hurts in any way, shape, or form, and just see what you can get with the rushing yards, and maybe he throws for 220 and a touchdown?
I mean, I would race him. I would race him in a foot race, but no, I wouldn't. I don't like naked quarterbacks. I think that you can do it in a cash game. I think you can do it in a small GPP like our league at 20. But if you're looking for the upside that you need, like for a quarterback to have a good game, unless it is a guy that's like a Taysom Hill, I think is an exception. I think a Lamar Jackson is an exception. Outside of the guys that you think can get a 100-yard bonus, you're just not going to win a GPP with them.
Right. I mean, I agree with you. I love Michael Thomas. I think Taysom Hill's done a great job. I mean, if Drew Brees wants to retire now, I think he feels like he probably can, because he's leaving the Saints in good hands. I think he's a guy I absolutely would draft next year, because you're getting the rushing yards, you're getting a decent passer. I think the world of this kid. I think he's going to be really good.
Well, and on top of that, Michael Thomas has not gone up in price. He went up $100. I don't know what they're doing in some of these cases, but another wide receiver. There's just a lot of good plays. I'm very interested to see how some of these ownership projections come out, because Michael Thomas at 7,100 has shown an ability to be viable as a pass catcher, even with everybody else in this offense, exception of Kamara, getting some of those targets. So it could be and at the end of the day, I don't think they're going to need to throw the ball to him 15, 16 times against the Eagles. So maybe that kind of takes away from it, but that's going to take away from his ownership. And that's exactly what we want. We want these guys that have that huge ceiling, need the right things to fall into place, but they're not likely or probable, so everybody's not gravitating towards them.
Yeah, I love the Saints D here for me for DFS. Just a quick live update. They had a false start in the game on a field goal attempt, moved it back 5 yards, and Justin Tucker missed wide left.
Remember when I asked you guys how can Baltimore lose? And this is it. Michael Gallup, like I said, takes over the game. Justin Tucker misses a field goal.
I do indeed remember that. All right, we got about 5 to 7 minutes left. We have got one last game. The Washington football team heading to my San Francisco 49ers, playing in the desert. 43.5 total, 3.5-point favorite are the 49ers. Go ahead, Chris. What do you think of this game?
I'm guessing Antonio Gibson doesn't play. And if Antonio Gibson doesn't play, one of the most, one of the plays that you have to consider here is J.D. McKissic. Just a massive amount of targets every single game. Had just a huge target load, another 10 targets, 10 catches, 70 yards against Pittsburgh yesterday. And this San Francisco team has been much better on the outside since Richard Sherman's come back. The Washington football team does not have a slot receiver that is any consequence. And beating ad nauseum that you wanted Cole Beasley because he's a slot receiver, and I told you I wanted him because there's no John Brown, and we were both right. But I think J.D. McKissic, and then of course Logan Thomas.
Yes, we speak. Logan Thomas is a hero of this show, Doc. So before you open your mouth, don't besmirch the good name of Logan Thomas on Draft for Upside.
Look, I may be smirched him a little bit. And here's why. First of all, I have him in the Scott Fish Bowl. I got a bye in the first week. I'm trying to win this bad boy after a few years. Here's my only negative about Logan Thomas. The 49ers are really one of the top 3 teams against the tight end in the NFL in points allowed. So I think this is a J.D. McKissic smash spot. I cannot imagine if Gibson's out, how he's not in every one of my lineups on DK. That's fact. So then the question is, I want to play Logan Thomas, but I'm worried about that statistic. If that lowers his ownership, great, but I don't think it will. He performed so well in the last game. I think his ownership is going to be a little too high for me. I'm going to fade him.
So here's one thing. The only negative to Logan Thomas is that you can't play him more than one time every week in the same lineup. One of the things that I'd have you look at, though, when you talk about that tight end number, while it's true, these are the teams that they've played. This is San Francisco. They played Buffalo, no tight ends. The Rams, they don't throw it to the tight ends. The Saints, they forgot about their tight ends with Taysom Hill. Green Bay Packers, Tanyan, 9 points, whatever. Seattle, no tight ends.
No, but you mentioned Tanyan, you mentioned Higbee. You've given me Jared Cook. You've given me some guys who don't suck. I mean, I'm with you on Dawson Knox, and I'm with you on that statistic. Points allowed or not is imperfect, right? Because sometimes when teams are better than worse, and it all adds up. I'm just saying Logan Thomas is good, but is he better than Bobby Tanyan?
Yeah, I mean, he can run the ball. He can throw the ball. I think they're going to actually they're going to have him kicking the ball soon, and he I mean, he's probably calling the plays at this point too. But
he's 6'8" and probably has a 17 or 18 size cleat.
And to be fair, the Rams did get 14 points from their tight ends back in October. Gesicki had 21 points or something thereabouts, and the Eagles had 13 points. So they're having some games. I just think that the context of the tight end, that's such a noisy statistic in terms of how defenses play the tight ends, because there's just not a lot of good tight ends. The teams that have bad tight end numbers are the guys that have to play the Travis Kelce's twice a year. Like notoriously, the Raiders have been a team that's bad against the tight ends because they have to play Travis Kelce 2 times a year, right. And that's why they're not good against the tight end.
I think the number is fair. I think we're looking at a 12 to 14 point game from Logan Thomas. The question is his ownership going to be at 15 to 17%? Am I paying up for those 12 to 14 points?
No, I think Logan Thomas at 3,300 continues just to be that really rock solid value. And if he's not going to throw it to J.D. McKissic, he's going to throw it to Logan Thomas. Does he catch all of those? He catches a lot of those balls. He's going to get 4 catches, 40 to 50, maybe a touchdown. He's basically Hunter Henry at a $1,200 discount.
Fair. All right, guys. Well, I like, of course, Mostert in this game. I think having Ayuk and Deebo Samuel back makes it very difficult to scheme against the 49ers because they're both so versatile. They can pick up running back plays. They get creative with how they get the ball. Their yards after the catch is amazing. With no Antonio Gibson, the 49ers are going to win this game approximately 52-12.
Close.
Approximately 52-12. All right, my friends, we're out of time. If you weren't watching live, the Baltimore Ravens picked off Andy Dalton, then immediately threw like a 40-yard bomb to Miles Boykin to take the lead. So
I will tell you that Mark Andrana in his main lineup showed me Miles Boykin, and we talked about how much we didn't like Miles Boykin, but he needed him for the salary. And I will tell you, I had so much Miles Boykin last Thursday.
But not tonight. Well, Dr. Roto, I really appreciate you popping on the show tonight. We love you, my friend. Thanks for coming on.
You guys.
And we'll catch you another time. And I'm Johnny Danger with Chris Emmerich for Draft for Upside. Thanks to the Notoriety Sports Network for helping us broadcast the show. You can find us on Draft for Upside at Facebook, of course. You find our premium material at fantasyfootballblueprint.com, where starting Sunday, we'll have a live promo code for you to get the draft cheat kit for 2021 plus the rest of the season content all rolled into one fantastic price. And of course, you find Dr. Roto at Dr. Roto on Twitter, correct?
You can.
Yes, sir. We'll catch you all soon. Cheers.